The old mansion loomed at the end of the overgrown driveway, its grandeur faded by time. Its weathered facade hinted at a history long forgotten, and the once elegant windows now stared like empty eye sockets into the encroaching darkness. I hesitated, glancing at the invitation clutched in my hand, my fingers tracing the embossed letters that urged me to attend the mysterious gathering within. The door creaked open as I stepped into the dimly lit foyer. Dust danced in the air, caught in the feeble rays of moonlight that filtered through cracked windows. The air felt heavy with an unspoken presence, and a chill crept over my skin as I moved deeper into the mansion. The grand staircase ascended before me, each step protesting beneath my weight. Portraits of long-dead ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following my every move. The invitation had been vague, promising an exclusive gathering that held the key to unlocking secrets untold. My curiosity battled with the growing unease, urging me to turn back, but a force seemed to pull me further into the heart of the mansion. The ballroom, once host to opulent celebrations, now lay shrouded in darkness. The only source of light emanated from a single, flickering candle at the center of an ornate table. The air echoed with a haunting melody, as if the ghostly remnants of past revelries lingered in the silence. As I wandered through the ballroom, a soft whisper reached my ears. I turned, half expecting to see a shadowy figure, but the room remained empty. The invitation clutched in my hand seemed to vibrate, resonating with a hidden energy that heightened the sense of foreboding. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the lone candle, plunging the ballroom into absolute darkness. Panic gripped me as I fumbled for my phone, using its feeble glow to navigate the inky blackness. Whispers surrounded me, unintelligible voices that seemed to emerge from the very walls of the mansion. The ballroom door slammed shut, sealing me within the suffocating darkness. I strained to hear any signs of life, but the mansion had fallen silent, as if holding its breath. Fear tightened its grip on my chest as I fumbled for the door, desperate to escape the oppressive blackness. With a sudden jolt, the door swung open, revealing a corridor that stretched infinitely in both directions. The mansion had transformed into a labyrinth of uncertainty, its walls closing in as I stumbled through the ever-shifting passages. Whispers echoed in the distance, voices intertwining in a disconcerting chorus. The portraits on the walls seemed to warp and twist, their eyes now fixated on me with a malevolent intent. Each step I took echoed with a sinister rhythm, the mansion itself seemingly alive with an unnatural energy. I questioned my sanity as the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurred into a disorienting tapestry. In a moment of dread, the whispers coalesced into a haunting melody that resonated through the corridors. The sound grew louder, an otherworldly symphony that seemed to emanate from the very core of the mansion. I followed the haunting notes, each step guided by an unseen force. The melody led me to a room bathed in an ethereal glow. The air shimmered with a spectral energy as I stepped inside. The room was adorned with mirrors that reflected distorted images, the boundaries between the living and the dead blending in a surreal dance. In the center of the room stood a figure, its back turned towards me. The haunting melody emanated from its form, casting a spell that froze me in place. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face obscured by shadows. A voice, ancient and filled with sorrow, spoke words that echoed through the depths of my soul. You sought the secrets that linger in the mansion's embrace, and now you are entwined in its legacy. The room seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as the figure extended a hand, beckoning me closer. The mirrors reflected my own image, but the eyes that stared back were not my own. They held a depth of anguish and despair that transcended time. In a surge of terror, I recoiled from the figure, the haunting melody reaching a crescendo that reverberated through the mansion. The mirrors shattered, casting a storm of fractured reflections around the room. The figure vanished, leaving me alone in the disintegrating space. With a violent lurch, the mansion seemed to collapse upon itself. Walls crumbled, and the corridors twisted into chaotic disarray. I stumbled through the chaos, the once grand mansion now a maze of shattered memories and broken illusions. As I burst through the front doors, the night air hit me like a wave of liberation. The mansion stood before me, its grandeur restored, as if mocking the horrors within. I stumbled down the overgrown driveway, the echoes of the haunting melody lingering in my ears. The invitation, now crumpled in my hand, seemed to mock me with its cryptic allure. The secrets of the mansion had unraveled before my eyes, leaving me with a haunting realization that some legacies are best left undisturbed. The darkness that clung to the old mansion would forever linger in the recesses of my mind, a testament to the terrors that await those who dare to unlock the doors to the unknown. The invitation had arrived in an unmarked envelope, a delicate script urging me to the long-forgotten mansion on the outskirts of town. Its grandeur, though obscured by years of neglect, seemed to beckon with promises of hidden tales and untold horrors. Against my better judgment, I found myself on the overgrown path leading to the mansion's imposing facade, the moon casting eerie shadows on its weathered walls. The air was thick with a pungent scent of dampness and decay as I crossed the threshold. The grand entrance hall, once the epitome of opulence, echoed with the haunting whispers of its long-gone inhabitants. Dust motes danced in the feeble moonlight that filtered through shattered windows, painting a ghostly tapestry on the creaking floorboards. A sense of trepidation gripped me as I ventured deeper into the mansion, guided by the flickering glow of a single candle that seemed to defy the encroaching darkness. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following my every move with an unsettling intensity. The invitation had been cryptic, promising revelations hidden within the mansion's walls. As I explored the desolate rooms, the temperature dropped, and the air seemed to thicken with unseen eyes. The remnants of forgotten luxury crumbled around me, and the silence hung heavy with the weight of untold secrets. A distant sound, like the soft murmur of voices, reached my ears. I followed it through winding corridors until I arrived at the entrance of a grand ballroom. The door creaked open, revealing a scene frozen in time. Tattered curtains billowed in a spectral breeze, and the chandeliers swayed as if keeping time with an ethereal dance. The flickering candle in my hand seemed to dance with the shadows as I stepped onto the ballroom floor. The murmur grew louder, morphing into a dissonant melody that sent shivers down my spine. I turned, expecting to find a source for the haunting music, but the room was empty. As the haunting melody reached its climax, the ballroom descended into an unsettling silence. The air felt charged with an unspoken presence, and the grand chandeliers flickered violently before extinguishing completely. The room plunged into darkness, and a voice, ancient and sorrowful, resonated through the void. "You should not have come." The words hung in the air, and a chill crept over my skin. The flickering candle in my hand sputtered, struggling against an unseen force. Panic set in as I fumbled for a way out, but the ballroom seemed to stretch into infinity. Suddenly, the candle went out, and I was enveloped in impenetrable darkness. Whispers surrounded me, voices from an era long gone, and the temperature plummeted. I felt a cold breath against my neck, and a presence, unseen but tangible, seemed to glide past me. Panic clawed at my throat as I stumbled through the abyss, guided only by the echoes of disembodied whispers. In the pitch-black void, the mansion itself seemed to come alive. The walls groaned, and the floor trembled beneath my feet. A phantom wind swept through the corridor, carrying with it a chorus of anguished wails and mournful cries. The once still portraits now contorted into grotesque expressions, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly malevolence. A dim light flickered in the distance, and I followed it through the ever-shifting darkness. The corridor seemed to stretch and warp, each step leading me further into a surreal nightmare. The whispers grew into incoherent chants, a cacophony of voices that seemed to revel in the confusion they sowed. The light at the end of the corridor revealed a door, slightly ajar. Hesitation gripped me as I pushed it open, revealing a room bathed in an ethereal glow. The air shimmered with a spectral energy, and in the center stood a mirror, its surface reflecting a distorted version of reality. The mirror seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy as I approached. My reflection appeared distorted, my eyes holding a haunted gaze that mirrored the unseen horrors that lurked within the mansion. The room seemed to warp, and the mirror whispered tales of tragedy and betrayal that stained the mansion's legacy. A voice, soft but laden with centuries of despair, echoed through the room. "The sins of the past linger in these walls. You are now bound to the legacy of this mansion." The mirror shattered, the shards falling to the floor like fragments of a fractured reality. The room dissolved into darkness, and I found myself back in the grand entrance hall. The mansion groaned as if in agony, and the whispers grew into anguished cries. In a desperate attempt to escape, I fled through the labyrinthine corridors. The walls seemed to close in, the mansion itself conspiring to keep me ensnared. Shadows contorted into grotesque shapes, and the air reverberated with the tortured wails of unseen entities. As I reached the grand ballroom, the haunting melody returned with an intensity that seemed to sear through the fabric of reality. The dance floor undulated beneath my feet, and the walls seemed to bleed with an otherworldly malevolence. I stumbled through the shifting shadows, each step a struggle against the unseen forces that sought to imprison me within the mansion's haunted embrace. In a final act of desperation, I burst through the entrance doors. The night air greeted me with a breath of liberation, and the mansion loomed behind, a silent silhouette against the moonlit sky. The gates swung open as I fled, leaving the haunting whispers and wails behind. The mansion receded into the distance, its windows like vacant eyes that watched my escape. The night embraced me with an oppressive silence, and as I walked away, the echoes of the haunted legacy lingered. The invitation, now crumpled in my hand, bore witness to the horrors that awaited those who dared to unveil the secrets of the mansion's tortured past. The wind whispered through the ancient trees, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The moon hung low in the inky sky, casting an ethereal glow upon the looming mansion that stood at the edge of the desolate estate. Its silhouette, framed against the darkness, held a silent promise of secrets and horrors that lay dormant within. I had received an unexpected letter, an invitation to the mansion that had been abandoned for generations. The sender remained anonymous, but the words on the parchment hinted at a forgotten legacy waiting to be unraveled. Intrigued and guided by a curious mixture of apprehension and excitement, I found myself standing before the wrought iron gates that guarded the entrance to the estate. The hinges creaked as I pushed the gates open, the sound echoing through the stillness of the night. The mansion emerged from the shadows, its windows like vacant eyes peering into the unknown. The air seemed to thicken as I approached, and the crunch of leaves beneath my footsteps reverberated in the silence. The front door groaned as I pushed it open, revealing a grand foyer adorned with cobwebs and dust-covered furniture frozen in time. The mansion's history whispered through the faded wallpaper and creaking floorboards. A chill settled over me as I ventured further, my footsteps echoing through the empty halls like a haunting melody. As I explored the forgotten rooms, each one seemed to hold a piece of the mansion's enigmatic past. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors adorned the walls, their eyes following my every move. The air felt heavy with a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the mansion itself awaited the arrival of an unsuspecting visitor. A distant sound, like a soft murmur, reached my ears. I followed it through twisting corridors and dimly lit chambers until I stood before a grand ballroom, its once lustrous chandeliers now draped in cobwebs. The source of the murmurs became apparent. An old gramophone stood in the corner, its needle scratching against a vinyl record that seemed to play a haunting tune from a bygone era. The dance floor, though covered in a layer of dust, felt charged with an unseen energy. The room seemed to come alive with the spectral echoes of revelries long past. I stood alone, a mere observer to the lingering ghosts of joy and celebration that lingered in the air. The gramophone abruptly fell silent, plunging the ballroom into an eerie stillness. Shadows danced along the walls, and the temperature in the room dropped. A whisper, barely audible, echoed through the emptiness. "You shouldn't have come." The voice seemed to emanate from the very walls, a lamentation that sent shivers down my spine. I scanned the room, but there was no sign of another presence. The mansion had awakened, its secrets stirring like restless phantoms. Driven by a strange compulsion, I ascended the grand staircase. The upper floors held a heavier silence, punctuated only by the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath my weight. The air seemed charged with a sense of anticipation, as if the mansion itself guided me to a revelation hidden in its depths. I entered a dimly lit room at the end of a long corridor. The walls were adorned with faded tapestries, depicting scenes of opulence and decadence. In the center of the room stood an ornate mirror, its surface clouded with age. As I approached the mirror, my reflection appeared distorted. The figure staring back at me seemed to age and wither, the eyes holding a profound sadness that transcended the boundaries of time. The room seemed to sway, and the tapestries whispered tales of a family's rise and fall, of love and betrayal that had left an indelible mark on the mansion's legacy. A voice, distant yet filled with a haunting familiarity, spoke in hushed tones, "The sins of the past linger in these walls. You are now bound to the legacy of this mansion." The mirror shattered, fragments falling to the floor like shards of a fractured reality. The room dissolved into darkness, and the mansion itself seemed to groan with the weight of its history. I found myself back in the grand foyer, disoriented and shaken. The echoes of the past lingered in the air, a chorus of regrets and sorrows that enveloped me like a suffocating mist. The mansion had bared its soul, revealing a history of tragedy and torment that clung to its very foundations. Desperation guided my steps as I tried to leave, but the front door resisted my attempts. Panic set in as I realized the mansion held me captive, its walls closing in like a vengeful entity. Whispers surrounded me, accusing voices that spoke of the trespasser who dared to unearth the forgotten sins. The air grew colder, and the grand chandeliers flickered to life with an otherworldly glow. Shadows danced along the walls, contorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock my futile attempts to escape. A figure materialized before me, its form indistinct in the shifting darkness. The voice, now a mournful lament, spoke of a curse that bound the mansion and those who dared to tread its haunted halls. The figure reached out, its touch like a grasp from beyond the veil. In a desperate surge, I tore myself away, stumbling through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors. The walls seemed to close in, the very architecture conspiring to keep me ensnared. Whispers grew into anguished wails that reverberated through the halls. As I reached the grand ballroom, the spectral echoes of past revelries returned with a vengeance. The music, a dissonant cacophony, accompanied the tortured cries of the mansion itself. The dance floor warped beneath my feet, and the walls seemed to bleed with the pain of centuries. In a final act of defiance, I burst through the front doors. The night air greeted me with a bitter chill, and the mansion stood behind, a silhouette against the moonlit sky. The gates swung open as I fled the accursed estate, leaving the whispers and wails behind. The mansion receded into the distance, its windows like vacant eyes that watched my escape. The night embraced me with an oppressive silence, and as I walked away, the echoes of the haunted legacy lingered. The letter, now crumpled in my hand, bore witness to the horrors that awaited those who dared to unveil the secrets of the mansion's tortured past.